SportsBeat is brought to you by Ken Garth. We hear you.
I'm in the position now that he had, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm excited about it, and hopefully I can keep the team going the way Frank started off with them and got them going in the right direction. Hopefully I can carry that on through.
Oh, he shoves the referee. He's out.
I'm always going to stand up for my players. If I take one on the nose, it's not going to bother.
Coach Jerry Sloan receives and celebrates his 1,000th career victory.
Kevin and Greg are aware of the fact that I may wake up one day and not be here. And basically that's where we are.
Tonight on SportsBeat, we continue to mourn the loss of a legend. Jerry Sloan has passed away Friday at the age of 78.
Yeah, we take a look back on some of the most memorable moments of Jerry's coaching career, and we have reactions from and memories from his former players and even an old rival coach.
Yeah, Jerry Sloan will be remembered for his accomplishments as a basketball player and coach, but he also will be remembered for his character, toughness, competitiveness, discipline, hard work, respect, loyalty. He was a fighter to the very end. He possessed values that connected with Utahns, and his legacy will never be forgotten. Toughness, grit, competitive spirit, hard work, accountability, humility. Values Jerry Sloan learned growing up in Southern Illinois. Born on March 28, 1942, Jerry was the youngest of 10 children. He learned how hard life could be at a young age. His father died when he was just 4 years old. His family lived in poverty. He worked on oil rigs, walking miles on dusty dirt roads to school and back. It was in McLeansboro where Jerry found basketball, a sport that saved him. He started at McLeansboro High School and then at Evansville, where he led the Purple Aces to back-to-back Division II national championships. He was drafted 4th overall in the 1965 NBA draft by the Baltimore Bullets. 1 year later, he was traded to the expansion Chicago Bulls. The original Bull was known for his toughness on defense.
Wouldn't you just love one more time to see old number 4 on that stadium floor growl at referee Jack Madden?
He led the Bulls to the playoffs in their first season. He averaged 15 points and 7 rebounds in 11 NBA seasons. He was a 2-time All-Star, 6-time All-Defense. His number 4 was the first jersey retired by the franchise. He won a lot of games as a player with the Bulls, but he couldn't duplicate that success as their head coach.
Well, you got to win. I mean, I wasn't winning enough games.
He was fired in the middle of his 3rd season.
Front office, they've decided that they were going a different direction, and it's not my position to judge them at this point.
His failure in Chicago would lead to a new opportunity in Utah. He got a call from Frank Layden. Jerry was an assistant coach under Frank Layden from 1984 to 1988. On December 12, 1988, Frank Layden abruptly resigned, and Jerry Sloan became the head coach of the Utah Jazz.
I'm in the position now that he had, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm excited about it.
It was the beginning of a Hall of Fame run. The qualities that defined him as a player were the same as a coach. He was a fiery competitor.
Oh, he shoves the referee. He's out. And Sloan throws him a kiss right back.
He don't accept you being tired. He don't accept things like that. But he realized you do get tired. But when that horn blows, you should be ready to play if you got any kind of heart.
There were ups and downs, early playoff exits.
And he said, no, do you want to coach this team? Which means, do you want to fight?
But the team led by future Hall of Famers John Stockton and Karl Malone took on the personality of their coach.
Traitor to the mailman, in your face, Brad Lojas.
And the Jazz won a lot.
Three-pointer. It's good. He did it. The Jazz win the game. Incredible. You got to love it, baby. The Jazz have done it again. Jerry Sloan as happy as he can be.
After years of playoff disappointment, John Stockton sent the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals in 1997. Stockton, open three. Good! Jerry's reaction will never be forgotten. The Jazz came close, but Michael Jordan stood in the way of that elusive NBA title. As the Stockton to Malone era came to a close, Jerry would keep coaching and keep fighting. He was dealing with losing on the court and adversity off the court. Bobby and Jerry were high school sweethearts. They had 3 children. His wife of 41 years battled breast cancer for 6 years.
But I'm going to do whatever I have to do to stay here with this wonderful man as long as I can.
I appreciate the support everybody's given us, but it's so damn difficult for us.
Then after battling pancreatic cancer, she died in 2004. It was a dark time for Jerry, but he found happiness again. He met Tammy Jessup. They were married in 2006. As he found happiness again off the court, the Jazz became a winner again on the court. A team that featured Carlos Boozer, Darren Williams, Mehmet Okur, Andre Kirilenko, and Paul Millsap averaged 52 wins over 4 seasons. They won 4 playoff series in 4 years and reached the Western Conference Finals for the 6th time in franchise history. Jerry would receive basketball's highest honor in 2009. He was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. It seemed like Jerry would coach the Jazz forever, but his 23 years as the head coach of the Utah Jazz came to an abrupt end.
Today, the Utah Jazz has accepted the resignation of Jerry Sloan.
On February 10, 2011, after a game against the Chicago Bulls, Jerry Sloan and his longtime assistant Phil Johnson resigned in the middle of the 2010-11 season.
My time is up, and it's time for me to move on.
And today is the end of an amazing era.
Sloan would continue to work for the franchise as an advisor.
No, I knew I'd miss it.
Welcome to Jerry Sloan's Manor Night.
On January 31st, 2014, the Jazz honored Jerry Sloan.
Just want to say you're the best.
By raising a banner which reads 1,223, the number of games he won as head coach of the Jazz.
I thought that's how many technical fouls I had.
Jerry Sloan was a fighter, but there was one fight he could not win.
I was told I have Parkinson's disease with Lewy dementia.
These diseases would eventually take his life, but they cannot take his legacy. Legends never die. The impact he had will live on.
Yeah, that impact certainly will live on. He accomplished so many things in his career. The pinnacle was probably that induction to the Hall of Fame in 2009, 1,223 regular season and playoff wins with the Jazz. For a career, he's 4th all time. He had the 6th best winning percentage of any coach, 2 NBA Finals appearances, 7 division titles, and an impressive 20 playoff appearances, 19 with the Jazz. He won 98 playoff games, which ranks 6th most in NBA history. He had 13 50-win seasons, and he coached 1,809 consecutive games with the Jazz. That's 2nd all time. He was the first coach ever to win 1,000 games with one franchise. He coached 133 different players as head coach of the Jazz, and a statement to his longevity in Utah, there were 245 head coaching changes throughout the NBA during his 23 years.
So many tributes from former players in the last 2 days, including Darren Williams on Instagram. Their relationship was well publicized. I know things didn't end well between us in Utah. However, I'm glad that I got the chance to sit down with him before it was too late. Definitely something that would have haunted me for the rest of my life. Blessed that I got to play for him and learn so much. Mehmet Okur said Sloan taught him so much on and off the floor. Paul Millsap thanked Jerry for the lessons and helping him mold him into the great player and man he's become. He always brings his lunch pail. CJ Miles thanked Jerry for everything and said, "You changed my life for the better." Danielle Marshall says Sloan brought the best out of him in his 2 years in Utah. And Rudy Gobert thanked Jerry Sloan for being one of the few guys that saw something in me when not many people did.
He was fiery. He was passionate. As a coach, I can only imagine how he was as a player back when he played with the Bulls. Off the court, he was a teddy bear, man. He had great stories. Like Grant said, he had a great sense of humor. And, he's sadly going to be missed.
Even though he had this gruff persona, he really had a heart of gold.
Up next, hear from those who knew Jerry better than anyone. Mark Eaton and Thurl Bailey remember their coach, and a great tribute from Jazz broadcaster Craig Bolerjack.
And a pair of rival coaches, George Karl and Dan Issel, spoke to us about Sloan's legacy and impact that he had on them. You'll hear that coming up.
The hardest part's going to be finding somebody with a big enough potty mouth to make you any money.
That's a bunch of bull.
Jerry made Bear a lot of money. Jerry Sloan had a great sense of humor. That is a great example. We all saw the tough side of Jerry, the fiery competitor, the stern disciplinarian. But just ask his players. There was another side to Jerry Sloan. Mark Eaton took his game to another level under Sloan, become an all-star in Jerry's first season as head coach. Thurl Bailey played for Jerry when he was an assistant and head coach. And it's also great to hear from Jazz broadcaster Craig Bolerjack, who came to Utah when Jerry did back in 1985. Bowler covered his entire career, starting at KSL and then as the voice of the Jazz.
I want people to know that even though he had this gruff persona and he beat up, the officials, and he probably rewrote the dictionary in four-letter words, he really had a heart of gold. He was a kind individual, but he also was a competitor.
In the crazy world of pro sports, he was like this solid anchor, this guy from the heartland of America who grew up in a small farming community and just brought that down-home philosophy with his John Deere hat, to the surrealistic world of professional sports. And I think, especially here in Utah, I think that's what endeared him to everybody.
And one of the reasons the Utah Jazz were so successful during Jerry Sloan's 23 years as head coach was he established a culture based on toughness, discipline, accountability, hard work, the values that continue to be a part of the Utah Jazz organization, and he deserves credit for establishing that.
He was hired by Coach Frank Layton a few years into my tenure with the Jazz to bring that toughness. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not sure we could have foreseen, what he would do at the helm going forward, but, Frank Layton knew something. He knew what Jerry had, and Jerry brought it to the team, and that was the team. You talk about identities of teams. That came from Jerry Sloan.
The great thing about him is he was consistent. He was the same guy every day. And I think from a player standpoint, I always appreciated that because you knew what to expect. There wasn't a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like, he was real. This is what he expected. And you could see the results on the court by listening to what he had to say and then going out and watching it occur the next night on the, in the arena.
He always told me, Bowler, if you need somebody in a bar fight, I'm your guy. I may lose an arm, but, but I'll keep fighting. And that's just Jerry.
Well, Jerry is near the top of an elite list. Just 9 coaches in the 74-year history of the NBA have won 1,000 or more games. 2 spots behind Jerry on that list is one of his longtime rivals, George Karl. Now, the 2 coaches went head-to-head in several playoff series. The 1996 Western Conference Finals between the Jazz and Sonics may be the most memorable of those series, the Sonics winning Game 7, delaying the Jazz' first appearance in the NBA Finals. Coach Karl told me that the Sonics' success was partly because he wanted his team to be like Sloan's.
The Sloan, Stockton, Malone versus Karl, Payton, and Kemp is something I'm always going to remember. Because we grew up trying to almost copy the success of the Utah Jazz.
When Coach Karl was in Denver, that Jazz-Nuggets rivalry was renewed, with one of those 2 teams winning the division title 5 straight seasons. Karl said that he admired Sloan's offensive versatility and creativity during those years.
Smart is so much not talked about by NBA fans and media. But having an intelligent basketball team was just a forte of a Jerry Sloan basketball team.
Now, before Coach Karl, Dan Issel coached the Nuggets in 6 different seasons. The 93-94 campaign was his best, taking the 8th-seeded Nuggets into the conference semifinals for a 7-game series with Sloan and the Jazz. And when he was on the Nuggets sideline, he told me there was just one coach he wanted to be like.
When I was coaching, I tried to emulate Jerry, because he just had that air about him that he was going to do everything in his fiber to win the basketball game. And that was the way he was as a player, and that was the way that he was as a coach.
Another coaching rival paid tribute to Jerry Sloan. Spurs head coach Greg Popovich made this statement: "He was genuine and true, and that is rare. He was a mentor for me from afar until I got to know him. A man who suffered no fools. He possessed a humor often disguised and a heart as big as the prairie."
Well, when we come back, we'll have our top Jerry Sloan moments, and there's a lot of them. You don't want to miss this.
I've learned that there are many things in life more important than basketball, but meeting my wife Tammy and my stepson Red has allowed me to continue on with my career in basketball when I question my strength to do so. And thank all of you for being here this evening, and congratulations my fellow inductees. I could not be prouder. It's truly an honor. Thank you all very much.
Jerry Sloan was enshrined in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in 2009 with John Stockton. How cool is that? There were so many great moments that defined his Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, we could fill an entire hour or more with all of those moments, there's no doubt, but we picked out a few, and here are some of our favorites.
Let's start with this. Jerry wasn't afraid to stand up for his players. There were a number of times where he challenged players to a fight. There was the time Kenyon Martin took a shot at Karl Malone, and Jerry wasn't going to let that slide. He challenged Martin. There was the time during the '99 playoffs. Thurl Bailey got tangled up with Rasheed Wallace. Jerry thought he took a swing at Big T, and Jerry got right into Sheed's face. Then late in his coaching career, 2007, Jerry Stackhouse took an elbow at Matt Harpering. 2 years before, he also had a tussle with Jeff Hornacek that caught the eye of Sloan in a Jazz Mavericks game.
I'm always going to stand up for my players. If I take one on the nose, it's not going to bother me. I don't want my players to get banged up, and hopefully they don't do something silly.
A classic Jerry Sloan moment from 1991 in Detroit. Dennis Rodman taunting Sloan, and coach just blows him a kiss. Then a few years later in San Antonio, Rodman with the hard screen on Stockton. Yeah, Sloan's going to throw a few words Rodman's way, no doubt. Rodman was later ejected from that game.
There were many confrontations with referees, countless technical fouls, but this incident with Courtney Kirkland went a little too far. He received a 7-game suspension for this in 2003.
When Stockton hit the shot, Karl was the first to celebrate with him, but not far behind the rest of the pack was Coach Sloan, hands in the air and a smile on his face as the coach gets to his first NBA Finals with the Jazz. That emotion from Sloan, a moment we will always cherish.
1997 NBA Finals Game 4. The Jazz even the series with the Chicago Bulls at 2 games apiece. After a thrilling Game 4 win, this hug between Sloan and the mailman will also never be forgotten.
Well, the Jazz were expected to be the worst team in the league in the 2003-2004 season after losing Stockton and Malone. Instead, Jerry did the best coaching job of his career. They saw their 20-year playoff streak end, but they did reach 42 wins, which was impressive. The 19th straight winning season for the Jazz.
And look at that roster. Jerry deserved to win Coach of the Year that year. December 11th, 2006, Jerry Sloan becomes the 5th coach in NBA history to reach 1,000 wins after a 101-79 win over the Dallas Mavericks. Jerry didn't like the attention, but it mattered to fans who celebrated their coach's accomplishment with passion.
Well, in 2014, Coach Sloan was back in the arena as the Jazz permanently honored him. They raised that banner into the rafters with that number, 1223, the total number of wins with the Jazz from both regular season and the playoffs. Coach Sloan, a legend.
Can they play with hair like that on your team?
No, I don't like your face.
Who are you looking at anyway?
I don't like my face.
So many great sound bites from Jerry Sloan over the years. We dig up a few of our favorites next.
He taught our daughter her first word was puck. So you do the rest of it. So when we went home, I'm like, no, baby. We just went to basketball practice, not hockey. So we get home and then it registered with me. So anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Oops. Jerry Sloan had a way with words, and sometimes kids heard them. Some of them were 4-letter words. We always listened when he spoke. You never knew what wit or wisdom would come out.
Either way, though, you knew you would always be entertained with what Coach Sloan had to say. So right now, take a listen at some of the best from the mouth of Jerry Sloan.
Now you know they're a good team. And I said that in the beginning, and people thought I was crazy when I said they were a hell of a team. But now everybody knows.
I thought we played awfully soft. You know, if you're going to play a playoff game, and you got to get after people.
Can they play with hair like that on your team?
No, I don't like your face.
Who are you looking at anyway?
I don't like my face.
We handling with kid gloves a little bit?
No, I'm not worried about kid gloves. I don't even like kid gloves. I'd rather have work gloves. He shot at the wrong basket, and he was trying to embarrass somebody by doing that. Deshaun fouled him. I would have fouled him too. I'd have knocked him on his. He tried to embarrass the team after a 20-point lead. I'm right. I'd knock him down. Rookies need to be seen and not heard.
If you're a basketball player, there's 24 hours in every day. You know, and I know people that get tired of hearing me talking about, well, I'm too hard on these guys, but what else they got to do? You get 8 hours of sleep in a day. There's a lot of time to do a lot of different things. You can get yourself, I would think, mentally ready to play basketball, and I've never bought that.
Shooting guard. We're trying to find a guard that's a making guard. I've heard so much about shooting guards. Anybody can shoot it. We just try to get somebody that's going to make them at that position. He's got to figure out what he wants to do, play basketball or be a clown. I'll be like a dizzy duck. You know what I'm talking about.
No idea.
I'll fill you in later.
You know, I'd love to get Jerry Sloan's take on load management. That's something we never got to hear from him on, but man, so many memories. We're out of time now, but we have so much more time Sunday night, 10:45. We'll have an extra 15 minutes to dig into even more Jerry Sloan stuff. But Sam, after all this stuff we've watched, respect is what stands out to me about Coach Sloan and his career.
Yeah, no kidding. And rarely do you see in professional sports players adopting and putting into action the personality of their coach. You always saw that with the Jazz and Coach Sloan.
Quite a legacy he left behind. Thanks for watching.